Oh my goodness, I'm live. Yes, I'm in my habit of comfort. My bathrobe, my hair pulled back, a good strong cup of coffee, and I've got plenty of cigarettes to get through this. This is a childhood memory. I have to be very careful with word filters of St. Bernice and Ronnie Jean, not using his last name. Ronnie Jean was an upstanding member of St. Bernice Church of the Nazarene. He was a board of stewards, board of trustees, and the church board. Helped with their expansion project of a educational wing. He collected Roseville pottery. I have one piece of Roseville. Not because I need the whole series, but because even though it's tucked away, when I pull out the urn, I can have memories of Ronnie. Ronnie had a Roseville collection like you wouldn't believe. Of all the different ones, always a complete set. Let's see, there was freesia, dogwood, oh, and the pine cone one. I happen to have a medium-sized urn with the Roman-esque cherubs and such. Thank you, Hampton Decor, for it being the right price, as it's unmarked, but it's still Roseville. A piece of memory I can touch. Well, I don't know if it was I had a childhood crush on Ronnie. He was very handsome. He had been in the Korean War. He worked at a funeral home as an undertaker. Attended church regularly. And he made certain that when the church gave Christmas gifts, it was something I could use. I had my very first blow dryer as a gift via Ronnie, knowing I was particular about my looks. Well, Dad was always busy on Sundays. And Ronnie liked watching football. Something I never understood, American football. But he had a color television and would sit on the couch. He'd fix some lunch. I tried watching football, but the most important thing was I got to spend time with Ronnie. Ronnie was another one of my protectors. I wish I could have told him everything that was going on. I didn't know how. Didn't know how to express it. Didn't know how to put to words what I was feeling inside. All I knew that when I was with Ronnie, I was safe. And no one would bother me. So I'd spend Sundays with him, and then we would go to church that evening. It was also a break where I got to be a kid and not the preacher's kid. I believe his car was now it would be considered an older Falcon, but I think he had air conditioning in it. It was always fun just to talk, and he taught me about Sicilian Italian cooking, introduced me to bagna calda. I loved his bagna calda, even though I didn't know there were anchovies in it. It was always a place of peace. Now there was a revival being held at the church. And part of that revival was the district impact team, a group of adolescent boys, well, young men, and girls, young women, that would sing. Well, due to the Nazarene manual, got to light up for this one. The genders had to be separated for sleeping accommodations. The girls were sent to the parsonage because, the parsonage was a citadel of virginity. And the boys were sent to stay over at Ronnie's. I, at the time, being of the latter part, knew about this arrangement beforehand. And deep in my heart, Ronnie was sharing his bed because there weren't enough spaces. I wanted to go to sleep next to Ronnie. Nothing sexual. Just a need for complete peace and acceptance. Well, it were a Friday night, and I got bumped out of my position by some queenie person who had other intentions on Ronnie. Well, in the middle of the night, I was sleeping in his new side room with the other older boys. They were handsome, but I didn't understand all of that. A loud scream, and this big queen that was with the group went running out of Ronnie's house naked to the church annex kitchen where the leaders of the impact team were staying. Screaming all the way, banging on the doors. Oh my God, oh my God. But the little faggot had discovered that Ronnie was too much of a man for him. This started a horrible, horrible experience. Of course, since it was a member of the impact team, and people had always wondered about Ronnie being so handsome and unmarried, and working with the dead. We'll throw a little India caste system in there. The whole town of St. Bernice was soon abuzz with the situation and the incident. Instantly ostracized, condemned, and publicly humiliated. People knew that I had spent many a Sunday at Ronnie's house alone, and some of them that had used me came up to me and said, "Oh, you can't go near Ronnie. Did he do anything to you?" He hadn't done a friggin' thing except protect me as much as he could from the others. Here I was, trying to figure out what I was, watching my hero be torn apart. He'd go into the post office to get his mail, and the postmistress would throw it through the window on the floor. Another good, wonderful Nazarene woman. I'm only speaking about this now that most of those people are dead. I'm still alive, and I have to put a settling on this. Well, they eventually drove Ronnie out of town. He moved into a Frank Lloyd-styled house. I know where it's at, if it's still standing. The display did show off his Roseville collections beautifully. It was the same town that the funeral home he worked at. Now backtrack. Nick, the owner of the funeral home, was a very old Eastern European Catholic, smoked like a chimney, and he sort of liked having me around the funeral home when I'd go there with Ronnie. Shoot. One of my first memories with my father babysitting me in Vincennes was in the embalming rooms, laying on a blanket with my Golden Rule picture books and watching the blood come off the table and go down to the toilet and the floor. I thought it was a pretty pool of color. Didn't understand what was going on, but what was I, 3? So, I almost said a name. Nick knew I'd been around mortuaries and I didn't have a fear of them. And his wife, Vera, she cooked some lovely Baba Yaga type food. Usually it'd be Dad would pick me up there after he'd done his hospital and home visits when Mom was in one of her moods. That's the backstory. Now, there were still the rumors spreading about Ronnie. So he found a woman that was compatible. God, she was gorgeous. And I was jealous of her because they got married. She was a previous Catholic nun. With an evil heart. At the time, Ronnie would have been considered a well-to-do man. She was a gold digger is what she was. After a short time of marriage, she filed for divorce. And with her threats of disclosure of everything about Ronnie Jean, she got everything. Left him bone dry for her to keep her mouth shut. It was after that Ronnie took the apartment above the funeral home. I think it started out with him just having a room. And then Nick and Vera moved into a house. It was a beautiful old house, which most old funeral homes are. And Ronnie was able to decorate the entire first story if you're Irish, second story if you're American. I visited a few times, quick visits, but then I got my Honda-Matic 700. Well, I didn't know how to clutch on a motorcycle. I was legal age. I planned out a weekend visit with Ronnie. In many ways that you wouldn't even think that I could have thought through. One of the most beautiful experiences in my life. To consummate a childhood love as a person that was of legal age. I think that young queer was legal age too of the impact team, but Indiana was strange then. Well, on another visit up to Ronnie's, there had been a string of murders that went from Indianapolis to Illinois, all the way up to Chicago. And they labeled them hustlers, were found in empty farmhouses, field dressed like a deer, and then copulated. Ronnie had one in the morgue. And because of my very free spirit, he gave me a visual of one of the young men and told me about the county sheriff coming to visit him. At that time, I don't know if they still do, they had a list of known, quote-unquote, sexual deviants, homosexuals, cross-dressers, and the such. and wanted Ronnie to give him names. Not enough anti-anxiety medication will get through this. Ronnie shared that with me. It changed my direction. His scared straight thing worked. They never found the person responsible for the murders. I got busy with beauty school again, and Mom was dying, and I was taking care of her, and working 2 jobs, and trying to keep myself in some kind of sanity. I don't know how I did it, but it existed. Some years later, I did go to visit Ronnie. I was older. I was driving still my first 72 Coupe de Ville d'Elegance Brougham, body by Fleetwood. He had gotten a little house and set up housekeeping again, and another one of the Mortician's undertakers had taken over the upper apartment. And there was something different about Ronnie. You could tell the world had beaten him up bad. But he still smiled and cared for people in sorrow. There was a wall between us. I will not gather, but I think Ronnie may have had the flu. But I didn't go back up there for quite a while until I was in transition and did a tour of memories. Stopped by the funeral home hoping to see Ronnie. And was told he was dead and had been buried. Well, went out to the cemetery between St. Bernice and Dana, where his remains had been interred. Brushed away the grass from his small flat stone. Said goodbyes the best way I could, and like always, held back the tears. So many experiences and treatments almost make it impossible for me to cry. Well, Ronnie Jean, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for giving me time to just be. And thank you for accepting the gift of myself when I was older. I guess you'll always be my first love. I swear, sometimes my journey seems like a Shakespearean tragedy. Miss Havisham, I don't know. I have no wedding cake rotten away. But now I've spoken Ronnie Jane's name. Set a record straight. And I know it's not been a happy little rambling with Sister Estelle Kinkade-Wilson. But I don't want to see this country which my family's been in for a few hundred of years. I think we're into the ending of our 3rd century here, so don't be telling me if you don't have blood in the soil of many generations how I can live, what I can be. Period. Well, as always, I'll leave you with my blessings upon and with all of you. These little ramblings help me unload things that have been carried for way, way too long. And when they come up, like today during my devotions, and the sparrow hawk cried, I love y'all. And know that your personal journey, your personal faith has great value.